Some people with Pluto in the seventh house learn very early in life that love, approval, and emotional safety came through adapting to other people. And this is a placement that could slowly make someone lose themselves in relationships. And it's not because they're weak. It's because somewhere early on, survival became connected to attachment. Welcome back from the trenches to the cosmos, where we take life lessons for the trenches and align it with the wisdom of the universe. We're going in deep on this one. Pluto in astrology represents power, transformation, survival, instincts, shadow work, obsession, psychological depth, and the hidden forces operating underneath human behavior. And when Pluto moves into the seventh house, the battlefield becomes relationships, partnerships, marriage, attachment, validation, power dynamics, protection, projection, dependency, control. This placement often creates people who unconsciously shape themselves around others, especially early in life. See, many Pluto in the seventh house individuals learn how to read people before they even learn how to read themselves. Reading moods, adjusting behavior, trying to maintain peace, trying not to upset authority figures, trying not to lose connection. And over time, their identity slowly became tied to other people's approval. And this is why many people with Pluto in the seventh house struggle with boundaries. It's not always externally, but it's internally, because deep down, there could be a subconscious fear. Now, if I fully become myself, will I still be loved? That's the shadow. And this can show up in many ways. Some people become passive resistors, externally agreeable, internally resentful, and others swing towards the opposite extreme and become controlling, suspicious, emotionally intense, dominant, or hypervigilant in relationships. But both extremes, they usually come from the same root: fear of powerlessness inside attachment. See, Pluto in the seventh house often creates subconscious power exchanges, people giving away parts of themselves for emotional security, sacrificing their voice, their needs, their intuition, their identity, just to maintain connection. And over time, hidden resentment builds underneath the surface because the soul knows something real is being abandoned, the self. See, a lot of these patterns, they begin in childhood. Some Pluto in the seventh house individuals, they grew up around strong personalities, emotional unpredictability, manipulation, domination, conflict, or environments where they had to emotionally adapt quickly in order to feel safe. So later on in life, they may unconsciously attract relationships that mirror unresolved power dynamics within themselves. And that's why Pluto relationships, they often feel so damn karmic, magnetic, obsessive, transformational, difficult to walk away from, because Pluto relationships are mirrors. They expose unconscious wounds, attachment patterns, jealousy, dependency, abandonment fears, suppressed emotion, emotional bargaining, and subconscious survival systems operating underneath the relationship itself. So this placement, it can also create people who constantly seek certainty through another person, wanting reassurance, validation, emotional guarantees. But Pluto eventually teaches that true security cannot come from controlling another human being. It has to come from inner authority. Now, the sign that Pluto is in, it changes how this manifests. For example, Pluto in Scorpio in the seventh house intensifies emotional depth, obsession, psychological penetration, secrecy, power struggles, and emotional extremes within relationships. This is Pluto in the natural rulership, so the intensity, it becomes amplified. But Pluto in Libra in the seventh house may appear more diplomatic, charming, conflict avoidant, or socially adaptive externally, while internally struggling with people pleasing, identity fusion, suppressed resentment, fear-conditioned intimacy, and dependence on relational harmony for self-worth. It's different expressions, but same evolutionary lesson here. So reclaiming personal power without losing the ability to love. And the one thing people misunderstand about Pluto in the 7th house is that healing doesn't mean becoming emotionally cold, detached, hyper independent, or unavailable. That's not healing. That's armor. Pluto in the 7th house is not here to destroy your ability to love. It's here to transform the way you relate. And healing usually begins with awareness, because you cannot change a pattern you cannot see. One of the first lessons for Pluto in the 7th house is learning to pause before automatically adapting to other people, before saying yes immediately, before shape-shifting for approval, before abandoning your instincts just to maintain harmony. Sometimes healing starts with asking yourself, what do I actually want to do for myself right now? And for many people with displacement, that question is harder than it sounds. Another lesson is learning the difference between love and emotional dependency, because Pluto in the 7th house can unconsciously confuse intensity with intimacy. Yeah, just because a relationship feels consuming does not mean it's healthy. Sometimes the nervous system mistakes emotional chaos for connection because chaos feels familiar. And another major lesson is learning to communicate honestly before resentment builds. A lot of Pluto in the 7th house individuals suppress emotions for too long, trying to keep the peace, trying not to upset people, trying not to lose connection, until one day everything explodes. And this can show up in real life as staying too long in unhealthy relationships, constantly attracting emotionally unavailable partners, becoming dependent on validation, allowing manipulation to continue, or feeling emotionally controlled without fully understanding why. Some may become passive in relationships, while others swing towards jealousy, suspicion, emotional testing, or control. But underneath both extremes is usually fear. Fear of abandonment. It's fear of betrayal. It's a fear of emotional powerlessness. And Pluto's healing begins when a person starts reclaiming inner authority instead of searching for someone else to provide it. Because the true evolution of Pluto in the 7th house is learning how to love deeply without abandoning yourself. To stop surrendering your identity for emotional security. To stop needing another person to define your worth. And once that transformation happens, these individuals become incredibly powerful partners, loyal, protective, emotionally intelligent, psychologically aware, deeply transformative. Many become powerful counselors, psychologists, investigators, social workers, mediators, negotiators, spiritual teachers, law enforcement professionals, or people capable of guiding others through emotional darkness. Because Pluto gives the ability to see underneath the mask. But first, they have to remove their own. And that's why later on the Chiron series is going to go even deeper into the healing side of these wounds, because Pluto, it exposes the shadow, but Chiron, it teaches how to heal it. That's what I have for Pluto in the 7th house, from the trenches to the cosmos. Stay blessed, and I'll see you next time.